And good afternoon, everyone. We are here today with Business Acceleration Playbook, bringing you the plays that you need to win in your business. And today we have special guest Dee with us. And we were talking with Dee a little bit before we went live, and she was taking our picture, and Chanel was all modeling, and I was cheesing because, that's how we roll here. And she was also telling us a little bit about her book and some of the amazing things that she has been doing just in life and business. And I'm going to let Dee jump in and give a little bit of an introduction. And she started to tell us a story before we went live. And I was like, wait, let's tell that live. So we would be ecstatic to hear about that story as well.
Awesome. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dee Bowden, to Maria and to Chanel. Thank you so very much for sharing this virtual platform with me. So fun facts about me. I'm originally from Boston. I live in Maryland. I love smooth jazz, Ferris wheels, and good wine. I was about to tell the story about how I created Collect the Cash. So the story goes like this. About 15 years ago, I used to work for a small IT company outside of Boston, where I'm from. You know how it is when you get hired for a company or a corporation. They welcome you aboard. They bring you to your cubicle. You get your little box. And I jokingly say you got your plant. And they tell you, have a seat. This is the things you're going to work on. So for those of you who are in business, I do what's called accounts receivable, which is basically business to business and business to government collections. So that's, you have invoices that are owed to you that are net 30, net 60, net 90. They haven't paid you. You've billed the company. They haven't paid you. You're running into a problem. How to collect the money. That's what I do. So back to the story. I get hired. They say, hey, we've got $8 million in outstanding receivables for a software company. I was like, are y'all kidding? They're like, no, for real. We've sold IT services, software licenses, all these things. And we've got clients that haven't paid us. And they said, according to your resume, I'm joking, but it said, according to your resume, it said you know how to collect money. I was like, oh, okay, bet, I do. So I'm a believer. So me and God had a short conversation. I got my 3 clues in business to business. And the 3 keys are that business to business collections is problem solving, number one, answering the question of what had happened was. Number 2, it's customer service. When you provide a product or a service and things don't go well, somebody has to answer the questions of what happened, how are you going to fix it? Excuse me. And then the last thing I believe in is gratitude. I believe that when you say thank you to the people who take your phone calls, who answer the question about what happened to your invoice, and then the most important part, when they cut that check, you say thank you. And that part, make sure that you get paid, you have business. So in 60 days, I was able to recover $6 million from $8 million to 6. One of the problems that I solved was one of the company's customers had changed their billing system, and they forgot to notify the company I worked for. So they had no idea that they were submitting the invoices wrong. So the problem solving of how do you collect this money? Hi, can you tell me what happened? They first said, oh, we changed our billing systems and we forgot to notify y'all. Well, you get the email, we reformat the invoices, resubmit them. So out of the 6 million, 2 million got collected in like a week, because once we figured out what the problem was, did customer service and said gratitude, we got paid. So after collecting $6 million, you were like, whoa, that's a lot of money. It was. Whether it's $6 million, $600, or $6, it's still the same principle. So the CEO of the company says, listen, we need to have a chat. Now, if you're in business and you make sales or you recover money, you're thinking, oh, this is about to be a good moment. We all come downstairs. He says, listen, I want to thank everybody across sales, contracts, order entry, everything. We've made an executive decision. We're closing the company. 2 months before Christmas, 100 people lose their jobs, including me. And it was one of those, I had some choice words then, and I still have them, but I worked on not revealing them anymore. So we lose our jobs, and I am devastated because, number one, I saw this was a small business. We're talking less than 100 people. So for all the business owners who have people that work for you, when people decide to work with you, they're believing in your dream, and they're expecting you to be financially responsible for the contracts, the products, the services, the billing, the order fulfillment. These guys didn't do that. And 100 of us, got our lives turned upside down 2 months before Christmas. Although that happened to me a few years ago, last year during the pandemic, one of my business buddies said, Dee, what do you do again? You collect money? She said, yeah. She says, can you teach business owners how to collect the cash? And I said, yeah. So she challenged me to actually write a book. And so I wrote a book called Collect the Cash. The sale is not complete until the money's in the bank. And that's how I got here.
That is, first of all, I want to clap. Hold on. Let me lay down my phone. That's amazing. That's an amazing story. It's like, and I think that kind of goes right back to a lot of people, if they get laid off or they get bad news. Chanel's still frozen clapping. She's super happy for you. But a lot of people would just take that as a hit and just, lay around and say, well, I can't do anything about it. But you took that and turned that into action. And that's what I really, really admire from your story is, we all have those pieces of our story that, are super hard times. And, that story may look a little different, but hard times are hard times. So the idea that you took that and you turned that into something amazing that can help other people, I think that's just great. And I know I'm sure that Chanel's chomping at the bits to ask you some questions because you may not know this, but her nickname is the Money Honey. So she loves
the
money.
Honey. That's what's up.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. So.
Is it better now?
Yes.
Yeah, you're good. You were frozen like this. You were like, you were really clapping. You were.
Oh man. Today is not the day to lose the internet. Finally, somebody who likes to talk about money as much as me.
Yes, absolutely.
And so this is like the unsexy part of, right? And so maybe you can help because I have clients all the time who, do really good, so they think, but then their follow-up process absolutely sucks, right? They, and this happens in many different ways. So step one is like,
you're frozen.
I'm frozen again.
You keep freezing.
You keep freezing.
Yeah, like it's very robotic.
Is this better?
Right now, you also listen. While you're in movement,
just
go ahead.
Fast.
Go for it.
Okay.
Talk fast.
So, do you have any advice for small business owners, like something they can implement to either help remind them to collect the money or something that they should be?
Absolutely, great question, Chanel. So, what I teach them in my book, I'll give you a tip. I basically have something that's called a tracking system. If you've been in business, you have your account. Okay, so I come from corporate and government agencies, so I'm talking in finance terms, but we'll break it down. I basically have what's called a tracking system in the book. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and do the shameless plug. This is the book, Collect the Cash. And so inside this book, I teach you how to track all of your accounts. So I teach you what's the name of your customer, what's the contract number if you have one, what's how much is the contract for, what did you order, sneakers, hair, doesn't matter, what's the invoice for, how much is it, when you're supposed to send it to them, and when you're supposed to get paid. If you learn to track that, whether you do it in an Excel spreadsheet, whether you do it on a whiteboard, whether you do it on your phone, I don't care. The point is that every business has to have a way to track products and services. The best example of that is a cell phone. Here's the best example for that. So business owners that have cell phones, or just people in general, when your sales process with the cell phone goes like this: you walk into the store, hi, welcome to whatever store it is. Oh, you're D. Can I see your license, please? The first thing they do is they verify who you are. Then your name comes up, and you're in the account. Next thing you know, oh, you're eligible for an upgrade. And I'm sharing this because this is the process of tracking everything. So they verify that you are who you say you are. Then they say, oh, you're eligible for an upgrade. You might have had if your team iPhone or Android, doesn't matter what phone you have now, they may say you're eligible for an upgrade. Next thing you know, they done sold you a phone. And then, hey, Ray, how are you?
Hello, ladies.
Hello. So they've sold you a phone. Then next thing you know, there's a contract. So the sale process already started. Then they've got the contract happening. Number 3, order fulfillment happens because on the back of the phone there's a barcode. They scan it, and it already goes into the system. Next thing you know, the next thing they ask you is, when would you like to get your invoice? When do you want your bill? So they're already invoicing you, and they're already setting up in the tracker when they're going to pay, when they're going to bill you. And then you tell them, I get paid on the 15th or the last day of the month, or whenever you get paid, you tell them, I'm going to pay my bill on this date. Then next thing you know, they bill you. That's accounts payable, accounts receivable. You paid them, or they got this magic button that turns off your services. But what I just described to you is a basic tracking system that people use in business all the time. So to answer your question for the small business owners, they can set it up and have the name of the customer, if they have a contract number, what's the dollar value, what did they sell them, when do you invoice them, and then when you're supposed to get paid. And if they miss the payment date, either you or someone on your team needs to be doing those follow-up calls, because the fortune is always in the follow-up. It's not sexy, but it's necessary. Just like you worked hard to get the sale, you got to work just as hard to get your payments.
Boom. Boom.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. So I guess I would ask your opinion, because you did just say that you said cutoff. And so like, that's one of my favorite words. If you're a service provider, because most of my clients are service providers, and I guess even if you do have like, you sell physical products, but specifically for service providers, I feel like it's always hard to know when the cutoff should be. So is there an industry standard? Like if you're 30 days late, you get cut off. Is it 15 days late? Is it like when 50% of the work has been done? Like, how do you know? So if for example, I have a 3-month program and maybe somebody's only made the payment, second payment comes due. Like, do I stop them until I get the second payment? Like, can you explain like
that's a great question, but that depends on how you structure your contract, because in the agreement you would have to tell them, okay, my pay, you know, if you have a 90-day program, you might be the type that does a deposit first, and then, you know, you do work, and then, you know, the work stops until the next payment happens, and the next payment. You have to structure it. You have to structure it in your contract, so you let them, or your agreement rather, to let them know how does the program work. So you either do a deposit, or they have to make their first payment first, then the work happens, and then you go over the checklist of things that were done, then you bill them, and then they get paid. A lot of times, so for me, I always believe that some of these issues can be resolved with old school conversation. I jokingly said to Ray, I said, you can't solve everything in 144 characters. You can't text everything out. You just can't. Some things, that means you have to get on the phone and say, hi, Chanel, I'm Dee. And you know what? I'm having a problem making my payment this month. Can I, or would you allow me to, number one, make a partial payment? Because number one, that shows you good faith. It shows you I'm not trying to ghost you. I just don't have all the money right now. But can I at least make a partial payment? And we document that I make this payment today, and when I get paid, or however it's working. So for example, I talk about this, especially if you're still an employee. If you still work for somebody, most people schedule their bills around when they get paid. So if they don't have all the funds, you can say, hey, Chanel, listen, I knew my payment was due on this date. I'm not trying to ghost you. I'm not trying to be work out of integrity. Work without integrity. I'm trying to tell you I have a financial issue. I need to know, is there any flexibility? One, I'm taking responsibility. I'm not ghosting you. Number two, I'm telling you that I have this problem, and I'm asking you, is there a way for us to work this? Even though you already graced me with the payment plan, and I appreciate that, but I've run up against something, and I'm not trying to not be responsible. I'm just telling you, I got this issue. Can we work this out? Now, if you grace them and give them that, as long as you document it and you follow up. But I would not. Here's the thing: if you make that adjustment and they don't pay you, I would not provide any more services for them until they square up with you. That's just me.
I think the biggest thing there is communication. You know,
absolutely.
The idea that they are communicating with you, because that's how it's been with me. I mean, I actually, like, I'm sitting here thinking right now, I have accounts receivable that I know will never get paid. And, you know, there's some of them that, you know, if somebody calls or messages me and says, hey, you know, I'm a little short, you know, I actually have zero problem with that, because it's that communication. If they have communicated with me, that's not an issue. I mean, even as business owners, sometimes, you know, things coming in is not quite matching up to things going out. Yep. So I totally get that and try to work with people. It's just that idea of communication. You ghost me and don't communicate. That's usually where I have a problem.
And I mean, that's a problem for anybody, because nobody sets up to do business to get ghosted. You just don't. But it happens. And the thing is, you know, I think what it is I think a lot of people don't understand that there are times in business that people that are just shady. It just is. And it's just, I mean, is it right? No, absolutely not. But my experience, my career, my success has been in having conversations. You know, with me working with corporations and government contractors, government agencies, I have to get on the phone and talk to people and research problems and ask for information and say, okay, where are we with this? So especially if I'm trying to recover money and they're telling me, okay, we can't repay the government until we get paid from this person, or we need to fix this problem. All of this to me is problem solving. And a lot of times I just believe it's how you solve the problem. I'm old school. I happen to just like having a conversation. Is it always easy? No. Is it always uncomfortable? Yes. Sometimes it's very uncomfortable, but I'm of the belief that when you take responsibility and say, this is my problem, I'm stepping up to acknowledge it. To me, it's no different than if you had somebody who's cutting your grass, who's painting your house, when they come in and they do the estimate, they tell you it's going to cost this much to paint your room. And they tell you, okay, here's the estimate. And then you start to go down the process. You give them the deposit. They tell you, okay, we have to go order the paint. Well, if they go to order whatever, they get the paint swatch and they order the color you said, and they made a mistake. Don't you want them to come back and tell you, oops, I made a mistake and let me fix it? That's customer service. That's problem solving. I would rather you tell me that you made a mistake than you just go ahead and just take my money, order the wrong paint, then you roll up in my house and you start painting. I'm like, that's not the paint I ordered. Yeah. And once you put it on the wall, I don't know. I'm not a painter, so I don't know how you take it off. But all I know is that if we don't catch this before it gets on the wall, I'm stuck with a problem that could have been resolved had you told me you made a mistake. And then give me the option of, okay, you know what? Either A, you have too many things going on and you're not focused on providing excellent customer service to me. Number two, maybe I don't need to go forward with you because I'm already, because success leaves clues or problems leaves clues. When you notice that people keep making same errors, you're like, didn't we discuss this the other day? And you're like, okay, those clues. And we tend to sometimes ignore them because we're like, okay, I want to do this or I just want to provide service. But sometimes when people start to show you some of the habits, you're like, I'm not doing this again. We done been here. I did you a solid. I did you a favor the first time. I'm not going to keep doing this with you. So we need sometimes you have to cut your losses and move on.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that goes back to boundaries, setting the boundaries for yourself, for your business. And I know we've talked about that a lot on this show because I think it's super important to talk about because we've all made those mistakes of not drawing a line in the sand and setting our boundaries firmly. And I'd say most of us, if we're honest with ourselves, have regretted that.
Absolutely. So, Ms. Chanel, you were talking about you are the money honey. So talk to me about the money honey. How do you work with your business owners and teach them about managing their money better?
Can you first? I switched to my cell phone.
We can hear you now. You're good.
We can hear you.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay, that makes me very happy. So people call me the money honey for different reasons. My background is in politics, and that's actually how I got my money. That's how I got the name, is because I did political fundraising and campaign management. And so the running joke was that I was never afraid to ask people for money. And for me, it's not so much money, it's making an investment. It is, leveling up. It's a thing that's not really sexy, but it's necessary. And the bulk of what I do is teach people how to like alignment almost. So you sell these products, and I always use this running joke. So coaches and consultants are notorious for, when they start out their business, they offer you everything, including the kitchen sink. They'll do anything for money, right? And so you go on their website. It's like going to the Cheesecake Factory. And it's like, okay, you want pasta. Well, it's 94 different types of pasta, right? So unless you just happen to know like what kind of pasta you want, it's overwhelming. People will tend not to want to eat there. If I'm really hungry, I'm never going to Cheesecake Factory. I'll just go to McDonald's. It always tastes the same. I know what I'm getting myself into, right? And so I help people like refurbish what they're doing, and then also teach them how to sell their products better, so articulate their value and understand the difference between selling stuff and making an investment. I have a client right now who loves to sell things for $97. I have no idea why this is her thing, where this came from. She doesn't know either. And so the conversation that we've had recently was, okay, so the person who you get in the room who can pay $97 is very different from the person who you get into the room who can pay $9,700. And so I asked the question, like, what type of impact are you interested in making? Because $97 is really important. That price point is absolutely necessary, but you're selling a $9,700 product. And so you're missing the mark, and people aren't buying in because it's too cheap. People are suspicious of things that have too much value and the price doesn't align. And so we go back and forth about it. So recently I was like, okay, don't ask me. I want you to find some people on social media, to get them to take a survey and ask them how much would they pay for the service. That's it. Don't try to sell them. And so I was like, you can give them a price range, like, $97 to $1,900, and like so on and so forth. And overwhelmingly, people were willing to pay over $6,000 for what she was offering. And so now she's like licking her wounds and embarrassed about the fact she's charging $97 for something people will pay $6,000 for. And what I try to help people understand all the time is that, like, it all has to go together. So yeah, and I teach them, that's the bulk of what I do is helping people. They call it branding, but I just don't like that term, because really what I care about is the sales and helping you maximize your impact. And then I also help people create courses, because a lot of service providers trade time for money. And so the whole point of being an entrepreneur is to buy back your time. You can't do that if the only way you make money is when you're in the room. And so specifically for my clients who do B2C sales, I talk to them about creating courses and like the power of that. And just working with them, helping them like do business better, because the days of having to sit in the room to make money are slowly but surely, going away, and then helping them go from in-person to digital. That was what I did a lot last year, was teaching people how to do like webinars and stuff online, which sounds pretty intuitive, right? You sit down and you start talking. It's actually really hard to be entertaining for an hour when you're staring at a screen, right? And so I've taught people how to go from like, take that presence and make it powerful in the digital space. So they call me the money honey, because I'm always talking to them about like how much things cost, how much do you want to make? And nobody likes to talk about money. Like, it is the craziest thing. Everybody wants to be a millionaire, and no one ever really knows what they're gonna do with $1 million. Because my question is always like, go ahead.
No, I mean, first of all, this is so interesting and very exciting, because you're right. You talk about money on your side, and I talk about it on my side, and I talk about accounts receivable, and that's how Ray and I started talking, because I've said this part of business, like for AR, whether you're in, regardless of when people owe you money, if you have a contract or an agreement, when they owe you money, most people, I jokingly say, would rather get a root canal than have to go ask somebody to make their payments, because I don't know where this part of business got to be so uncomfortable. But it's like my thing is, you had no problem going hard for the sale. You did, right. Again, I come from corporate and government, so you're doing a presentation. I'm sure if you cut grass, you paint, you come in and you do, you lay out who you've painted for you, how you've done things, et cetera, et cetera. The point is, you're always selling. Even right now, I've been selling about, AR for businesses. But one is that you're talking about that all the time. But I don't know where accounts receivable in business got to be such a sore spot for businesses. But when you're looking at people that owe you invoices that are net 30, which means they're 30 days past due, 60 days past due, 90 days past due, and you won't get on the phone to call them, but you wanted the sale. See, and that's why my title says collect the cash. The sale is not complete until the money's in the bank. It's no different when you go to the store, and whether you use a debit card or a credit card, you don't get to leave the store, especially if you use those, until they said these two magical words: transaction approved. You ain't leaving the store until those two things happen, which is the sale is complete. The money has been withdrawn. Then you go. You get your bag, get your receipt, you out the door. It's the same thing, except on a bigger scale. Hey, Angela, welcome. How you doing?
Thank you. Yep. No, I'm working on it. So thank you for joining us today, Dee. I'm really excited to hear more about it. So this is not my strong suit. So I'm anxious to learn today.
To answer your question, I think the reason why people are taught, like, especially in their homes, and I talk about money. So a lot of people don't know how much the mortgage was when they were a kid. They don't know how much things cost. And I think for me, how I got really comfortable with money was I lived in the house with my great-grandparents. My great-grandfather, who I was with most of the time, he couldn't really read. He wasn't good at math. And so when I was a kid, he would take me to the bank to cash his check. And so when they would count it down, he would look at me and ask me, well, is it right? So as a little kid, I'm like 4 years old going 1, 2, and so I always knew how much things cost. We would go to the store, he'd get his change back. I would count his change, and his eyesight was bad. And so I was always responsible for that. My great-grandmother would write her checks out. I had to make sure it was spelled correctly. So my whole life, I've been on both sides of getting money and giving money. But when I talk to people about what it is, their relationship with money and why they're so uncomfortable, I start small and say, when you were a kid, did you know how much things cost? Did you get an allowance? And so people's first introduction to making money often is, exchanging time for money at a job. right? And so then they don't ask, like, how much do pens cost? And I'm nosy. So when I work somewhere, I always want to know how much stuff costs. Like, if we get swag, how much was that? Like, I'm always on the board, or like always helping, because I want to know how much you spend on these t-shirts. If you're spending $5,000 on t-shirts, I can get a raise. Like, I just need to know. And I'm always in the business. And I just got really comfortable in that space. And even, I think, like, over time, I talked to, because most of my clients are women, new entrepreneurs now, they just don't feel like they should ask for money from anybody. It's like an independence thing. I'm like, I am not independent of the work I do, nor the money that I'm owed. So you just have to set that up. And I ask people to, I've developed like a client onboarding that includes for every client that I have, I say to them, like, what's your onboarding process? They never say anything about how they get the money. And I'm like, where do you get your money? Like, where does it come from? Is it PayPal? Is it Zelle? Whatever it is that you're doing, like, how do you get your money? And how many different ways can you get money? Is it Afterpay? Is it PayPal? Is it, I can do this all day with a different type of merchant services, Stripe. Where does the money come from? How much are you spending to make money? And so most people, if you ask them about that client onboarding, they never talk to you about payments. And so, like, that's the thing that I'm always driving home. Like, you need to tell people, like, where the money comes from. And I think it's just the fear of, nobody wants to hear that they can't be paid. But you're not going to pay me long before you don't pay me, right? Exactly. I think, like, that's a big part of it, that people are just, like, afraid of rejection almost.
You know, that's a good point. I also think that there's this I like to call it, I'm gonna go old school. It's like I dream of genie, and it's like I think and because of social media, and it's this, and not bashing social media because we're on it right now, but there's this perception that you don't have to really understand how things work in business. Like, you don't, like, I very rarely hear anybody talking about the fact that about onboarding. They're like, what's that? Well, if you think about it, when you were an employee, when you went to work for that employer, they onboarded you. Basically, you had an application to fill out. They told you about your benefits if they had them. You had to pick a plan, whatever it was. If they had a 401k plan, they told you you're eligible to start contributing to this plan after 60 days or 90 days or whatever the thing was. They gave you your schedule. There was a whole process of how you became an employee, and then you got to go to your cubicle with that box and that plan I talked about earlier, and then you went to work. But there was a whole process to get you there. And somehow, I feel like in business and small businesses that I don't know who they're listening to, and I don't know where they're getting their information from, because it sounds like it's so simple to do one of these things and you've got a business. The thing is, you can do this and not really have a business. You can be freelancing, which is what a lot of people are doing, because if they're really a business, they have articles of organization. They're set up legally in their business. They have what's called an employer identification number. That's basically a social security number for your business, like you have a personal one for yourself. Third, you actually have a business checking account with either the bank you bank with now, or if you belong to a credit union, do that. But you have those three things that actually say you are officially able to do business. Now, even if you do business through PayPal, PayPal is a merchant account. PayPal moves money from one merchant to another, and it's still tied to an account. They ask you, what account is this tied to? Now, hopefully, if you have one, you're tying it to your business checking account. But the point is, everybody thinks that because they use PayPal, that's my business. No, it's not. It's a system. It's a system that they use to move money. You go buy a book or whatever you buy. Same thing if you use Cash App, same things you use Zelle or Stripe. Those are all merchant systems. But people have been told that's how I do business. Like, no, that's how you move money from one product to another. That's not how you do business. The business part is, what are you selling? How are you selling it? How are you going to deliver it? What does it cost? And when am I going to invoice you for it? And then when am I going to get paid? That is like what I talked earlier about the cell phone. That's the true business. All the things I described, what happens to everybody when they buy the cell phone. Those 5 things, that's what happens. You come into the store, they identify who you are. They tell you you're eligible for an upgrade. Then they confirm your contract. They start the contract before you even leave the store. They scan the back of the barcode for the box. The inventory starts before you even leave the store. What date would you like your invoice? We're going to bill you. That's accounts payable from them to you. Accounts receivable, you pay them. And I jokingly say they got this magic button that will disconnect your services, because they're not going to let you keep using their phone and you not pay them.
Yeah.
That part, that's what happens in real business. Those things happen, whether you do it brick and mortar, whether you do it, virtually, you're doing all those things. If you have been taught about those things. And I feel like there's a lot of people that have just slapped up a business, but they've not been taught like this part, like the back end part, the onboarding part, the accounts payable part, or accounts receivable part. They're not talking about that. And I get it. They're like, oh, and especially if somebody says, I want to be a millionaire. You need to be a thousandaire first. How about you get that part done first? How about you make $1,000? And then
Absolutely.
And then whatever you did to get that part, learn how to get better at that and recognize that for every time you want to grow in your business, it means an investment. To me, it's no different than when you went to school. If you went to, all of us are old enough that you went to high school and you graduated. Now, if you decided to serve in the military, or you went to junior college, associate college, or went up for 4 years, somebody showed you that you needed more, so they put in front of you options. So you either went to school, or you served in the military, or you went to trade school. I'm a little older, so you had three things. But you were doing, in my household, you were doing something. You weren't not just going to graduate high school and not do anything. You were going to go to work. You're going to go do something. I was fortunate to get to go to college, so I did that. I was shown the option that in order for me to do more in my life, I needed more education. Well, in business, you have to do the same thing. And when you get started with what you have, and then you realize you don't know how to do everything, which means you have to invest in yourself, whether it's a small business administration, taking the free classes, whether it's SCORE, whether it's getting a coach, whether it's getting a mentor. You have to continue to invest in yourself to grow. The person you see today, I've been on this journey for several years, still learning things, still trying to figure things out, and still making mistakes. But the point is, I'm here. But if I wouldn't have gotten started, I wouldn't be able to tell you the story today.
I love that we're talking about onboarding. And I think in the other spectrum of things, we need to talk about offboarding, because that is something I see. So even if they've got the onboarding part down pat, they're like, yeah, I have an onboarding system. They do not have an offboarding, system that they follow, whether that be for an employee or for clients, because let's go back to that. They don't pay you. You've drawn your line in the sand. Enough's enough. What's the process from there? Is there any advice that maybe you could give somebody in the realm of that to maybe because I think that ties right into a lot of times to the account receivables, because if you've drawn the line in the sand, they have not paid their invoice, you start the offboarding process, there's usually an account receivable, account left behind.
Right. So, okay, I'll say it this way. So the offboarding process for AR, based on services, number one is based on your contract. So if your contract spells out that, after the third time of me contacting you for payment, services are terminated, number one. Then number two, I'm not an attorney, so I'll have to do it what I understand. So it would be how you outline it in your agreement, after the third time, services are terminated. And then after that, either you or someone on your team needs to do a letter that basically terminates the contract. They call it, terminate for cause. And you would be terminating your contract and spelling out that the services are no longer going to be provided because you didn't pay, and you're going to end it. That's as much as I know about that, because I'm not really in the consulting space, so I'm like that's not my expertise. I'm just thinking about it from a logical standpoint, like where I've seen it's like, okay, people are billing. They're not paying you. You have to basically terminate the contract and tell them why, and document it, because if they come back with something, you want to make sure that you've documented why did you terminate. You for section whatever it says, invoicing, payment, services. This part was violated, and documented, because if they try to take you to court, then you need to be able to talk to an attorney to say, okay, this is the agreement we had. I provided this service. They didn't pay me. I followed up. I have a paper trail of everything I've done. I made an executive decision that I'm terminating this contract because this is a headache, and I notified them, and I've closed. And that's the offboarding part would be closing the file. Where I come from in the government, we do what's called contract closeout, and there's actually a checklist of all the things that have to be done to confirm that the contract was awarded, that the products or services were delivered, the invoices were all submitted. The invoice that says final was submitted, and then I have what's called confirmation from the vendor that says all the work has been completed and there are no more invoices to come here. And once they confirm that, they say that, then I'm responsible for going through the checklist and preparing that file to be closed, which means there will be no more transactions, no more emails, nothing. When I say it's closed and we've prepared the document to close it out, That's it. We're not reopening it. And that's the offboarding for in your business needs to be that when you complete the contract, there needs to be something that says, final invoices, all services rendered, all payments were received, contract closed, and you have a file system that you put everything that's closed in it. Hope that makes sense.
It does. I think that's great advice.
That makes sense. But quick question I have is systemizing that process.
Say again.
Systemizing that process. Just like I know when we talked about on a podcast about systemizing the front end, most people don't systemize the back end. Can you talk about that and the way that perhaps should go in a business?
Are you talking about for AR?
Yeah, for AR.
Okay. Well, I did earlier. I talked about basically creating, basically if you want to systemize your accounts receivable, you would have I call it a tracking system, which is, the name of your vendor. If you have a contract number, because again, I come from that, but if you have a contract number, agreement number, have that. What's the amount of the contract? What are you providing to them? The product or the service? When are you supposed to invoice them? The invoice number 1, and it's tracked. Then when is it sent to them? And then when it's supposed to be paid? And then a section called notes. Because if you do those 5 things that I just described, and you have notes, if the invoice went out on the 1st, well, today is July 27, 2021. So the invoice was submitted on July 27, 2021. It should be coming paid on, let's say, August 10th. If the payment doesn't hit your bank account on August 10th, on August 11th, somebody, whether it's you, needs to be getting on the phone. Hi, may I speak to the person in accounts payable, please? I need to follow. I'm talking from corporate, but whether it's corporate, business, whatever, whoever is responsible for cutting the check, that's the person you need to be talking to. So you have to be doing the follow-up to find out what happened. I said earlier that the 3 keys to collecting the cash are problem solving, customer service, gratitude. So if the payment was due on August 10th, if it hasn't come in, next day, you're on the phone. Number 1, before you even get on the phone, do you have a copy of your invoice that you submitted to them? And did you confirm it got sent to the right person? That part. Because a lot of times people make these, what I call old school data entry errors. You don't send things to the right email box and you wonder why you haven't gotten paid. So before I get on the phone, I would confirm that I have my agreement and I have my invoice correct. And I'd be checking my boxes to make sure that part's right. Then number 2, I would be getting on the phone to ask to speak to a person in accounts payable. And I would be building a rapport with them before you go in hard and, well, how come I didn't get paid? Sometimes it's old school common sense. Good morning, good afternoon. Hey, how are you today? Got it. I'm calling about account number, blah, blah, blah. But before I get into that, how are you? You got a second? Great. Here's what's going on. I submitted this invoice. I want to confirm these are the facts. This is where I'm supposed to do this. According to this, it said I'm supposed to set it here. I did that. And they pull it up on the screen. And they're like, oh, no, you didn't. You forgot a Z. Oh, oops. Okay. Thanks for letting me know. That's the gratitude. Thanks for letting me know that we made a mistake so we can course correct that and set it up so we won't keep making that same mistake over and over and over again. That's what I would do. That's the tracking system that you learn about in the book.
I love that. And for people that are listening, maybe just tuning in, can you go ahead and do your shameless plug with your book again? That way Ray and Angela can see it too. There you go.
Well,
collect the cash. Well, I just want to say that I'm the star pupil because I just ordered your book. So star pupil. Star people.
There you go.
So, no, I mean, I'm loving this conversation because I know a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs out there really need to hear these things because, especially coming from the corporate world and going into your own business, you're really naive about all the things that have gone on behind the scenes all the years you're working corporate because you're like, I could totally do this for myself. I was doing it for somebody else for X amount of years. And then you roll over to doing it for yourself and you're falling on your face left and right because you didn't realize all of the jobs that were going on behind the scenes. And if you're anything like me, after you fall on your face a few times, you have to take a hard stop and say, okay, what can I do over here to learn this? And what can I do over here to maybe delegate this? And I think those are important, things to kind of look at because stepping into your own business when you come from the world of having a lot of things being done by little magical fairies behind the scenes, it can be a rude awakening, or I know it was for me.
Well, Maria, I'm so glad you said that because that's me. I mean, I'm still a dualpreneur, which means I have a career and I'm building my businesses, which is one of the things I recommend to people is that I understand that I joke about it. I joke about it and say, in these internet streets, everybody makes it look like creating a business is this, I dream a genie and you're just successful. No, ma'am. And no, sir. There's listen, when you go to work for somebody, you, as I talked about, the onboarding process, you go through this checklist of things. Especially if you come from corporate or military or whatever, they have a checklist. They have a whole process that gets you officially to your cubicle. But before you get to go sit in the cubicle and get your computer and log in and start doing your work, there's a whole process that happens. There's all these things. So when you decided you want to start a business, number one, I say it to you this way. Number one, before you start your business, how much money do you think you're going to need to get started? I personally tell people to do the 52-week savings challenge. I tell you to do the basic one, which I think if you do it, I think you save about $1,500. That might not be a whole lot of money, but that's a small start. It's a small seed to get you started. Because when you realize, okay, I got to pay for my articles of organization, I got to have $100 or more to open up a business checking account. Oh, I want a website. Oh, I want a logo. Oh, I need pens. I think Chanel was talking about t-shirts. Oh, I need swag. You're paying for this. And when you first start your business, until you make some money, you are funding this.
Yep.
You are bootstrapping this thing, and you're trying to figure out, oh my gosh, I didn't know everything costs so much. Oh, I didn't know I got to pay quarterly taxes. What? I got to get an accountant. What? I got to get business insurance. What? All that costs money. And it ain't the I Dream of Jenny thing. The I Dream of Jenny thing is if you have some money saved up, you can use that money to get you started until you get training on how do you think you know how to sell. You may not know how to do a presentation. You may not know how to do a PowerPoint. You may not even know where am I supposed to find my customers, because the people that you worked for, they did all the stuff that you now have to figure out. They did all that. They had a sales team that did leads and cold calling and did follow-ups and went out to coffee and on and on and on. All the things that you have been able to do as an employee, there are systems and teams that do all of that. When you become an entrepreneur, you are all of those things. And if you've never done all that stuff, you got to learn how to do that.
And you're exhausted. You're going to be exhausted at the very beginning.
Man, listen.
Don't try to run before they walk. That's the problem. And something on the internet, you see, particularly on Facebook, well, be a $1 million coach or be a $1 million this or that. Well, listen, there are so many steps that you have to take until you get there, but you don't know those steps. It's someone like Dee that can help you get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the thing is, and here's the thing for those that are listening, please don't get discouraged if you don't understand all the things. All of us are here because we are still learning all the things.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
You never stop learning.
Right.
No matter how many years you have in the game, you never stop learning.
And I think that's the key.
I think the other thing too is that you're optimizing. So even if you think you know it, even if you've done it for this entire time, there's always a better way to learn. And even within yourself, say if you're the leader, then you still want to be optimizing to do better and do better.
Absolutely. And I think that moment that you think you have it all together is where you might as well just hang it up, because you're never going to reach this. I think I love when I see people say, well, I've perfected this, quote unquote. And to me, perfection's a verb. Like, you're always perfecting, like you never get it perfected. So I think it's one of those things you have to kind of realize that business ownership is just like life. It's a journey, and you're always going to be learning. You're always going to be gaining new information and changing what, your processes are or whatnot. And, we get into business because that one or two things that we do amazingly. And it definitely does not mean that we do all the things amazingly. And actually we figure out really quickly all the things that we suck at and actually don't even need to touch.
Right. And Maria, that was a good point, because and you're right. Nobody perfects things. Here's how we can prove that: phones. Team Android, iPhone. I'm Team Android. I think I'm at Samsung number, I think it's 20, but they had a Samsung 1.
Yeah.
iPhone, whatever, all y'all that are Team iPhone, I think they're up to 11, 12. It don't matter. The point is, they had an iPhone 1. And they put the product out there, they get information, they get feedback, they make system updates, they do the thing, you got another one and another one and another one. The point is that in your business, you might get started with what you have. And that's the thing, you have to actually get started so you can figure out what do you know, what don't you know, and then what you need to improve on, and then where do you need help. But if you never get started because you're scared, oh my gosh, what if I make a mistake? All the things that we enjoy today, somebody sat somewhere and had a brain dump or a brainstorm, and they wrote it down on a piece of paper and a napkin. And they're like, okay, I'm going to start this. And they got started. Then they kept going. And that's the thing I want you to understand is that when you decide to be a business owner, you get started. I was talking earlier about not leaving your day job while you want to build the business, because you still need a place, unless you're financially able to do this, you still need a place to be able to go to work, make your money, and then start saving for the things on the side. And then you can do that, because the worst thing you could do, obviously life happens to you. But the thing is, if you just jump out here to become an entrepreneur and you have no savings, no plan, no strategy, you're going to be closing that thing you just opened and you're going back to work, as opposed to you're working, you're putting aside some money to start to do the things, meaning taking the classes, getting yourself established, finding a business coach to tell you, okay, can I even do this? Can I do this as a side hustle? Can I do this full time? Is this even worth me doing? Because you might have this great idea and you talk to somebody, you're like, nah, that ain't gonna work. And here's why. And they give you the facts. Then you get the information. You can say, okay, I can see that why I don't have enough to do this, but what else can I do? And you haven't burnt the bridge. You haven't burnt the bridge. So those would be my 2 cents on that.
Love it. So I'm looking at your website.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about what you do. Collect the Cash is the name of your business as well as your book?
Collect the Cash. No, my business is called BCS Solutions. My book is called Collect the Cash. So I'm rebranding everything with Collect the Cash. Okay.
So talk to us a little bit about BCS Solutions and what you do.
Sure thing. So BCS Solutions is a revenue recovery consulting firm. And so myself and my team, we go in and work with companies to teach them the art and science of collecting the cash. So we teach you how to set up your systems. Number one, the same thing I talked about here. Number two, if you don't have somebody that does AR and you want to outsource that, then we can come in and do that alongside of you. And then the third thing is come in and do trainings. So just like this, we can come in and do a virtual training about your AR and say, okay, pull up your invoices and let me see what are you doing to collect the money and where are you getting stuck, especially if I come from government and corporate. So if you're dealing with corporations and government agencies and you don't know the lingo, you don't know the acronyms, you don't know the language, I'm going to teach you what you need to do so you can understand how to maneuver in that system. And that's what we do.
Awesome. So is there a specific size business that you cater to?
Medium, small to medium.
Okay. What about you, Money Honey? I feel like you got some questions boiling in there.
It's interesting because this is the side. You did. It's okay. I was listening. Don't have any questions. So this is a generic one, but I love to ask this question. So you said you do corporate and you also run your business, right? What do you see? Is it BCS Solutions? Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do you see BCS Solutions in 3 years? Will that be your full-time thing, or do you always anticipate this being just like a well-paying hobby?
No, the plan is for BCS Solutions is for me to be able to move into BCS Solutions full-time. That's the plan. So in three years or less, I will not be clocking in for somebody else at this time, but I'll be doing this business, full-time. I chose to maintain my career, number one, because once I leave this, I don't want to come back. So I don't want to have to come back to do this. So I made a decision that I will continue to have my career and I will continue to work on this. And so by doing so, it allowed me to create the systems that I have now. So I finally figured out because I know what I do in my career, but to figure out, okay, how can I take my knowledge, skills and abilities, and what can I do? So I can teach, I can speak, I can train. I now have a book. I now have a course. I now have things that I can do, when I leave, because I didn't before. I didn't think about this. I was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to, like most of it, I'm really good at this. I'm just going to jump out here. I was like, no, sir, no, ma'am. You need to put some things in place. So the very things I'm talking about to other people, I'm doing that as well. And I'm working it slowly to make sure that when I leave, I'm ready. And I've done things. And I hope that by the time I leave, that like I said, my goal is to not come back. That's the goal. So that's what I'm working toward. And I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. What
Hey,
about
Deb,
you,
I have
Coach Ray?
2 more questions.
Oh, she's got, never mind. You don't get to talk
Oh,
yet.
wait,
Chanel's still in.
okay,
Listen, I haven't spoken most of the day, so that's
So-
fine with me. Go for it, Chanel.
okay, I have a question. How do people get paid? So you do this money recovery, right? If I'm thinking about doing this, how do I get paid?
How do you get paid?
Like,
If you're
so
talking,
is it, do you get a portion of the amount of money you recover, or like?
So what I have, so the way it works is you have a flat fee for your services, and then you get a percentage of what you collect. That's how it works.
Okay.
So for example, let's say there's,
I was going to ask you for an example. Go ahead.
Okay. So for example, I just had somebody reach out to me the other day, and they have about $35,000 in AR that's outstanding. So I have a flat fee that I will charge them, and I will give them I will set the percentage of what I'm going to collect for that $35,000. But I'm not going to just go in there and do the work without getting paid. There's a fee for my time and my knowledge, and then there's a percentage of what I collect. That's the way it works.
Absolutely.
So what is this was my second question. Sorry, you were saying something, Maria?
No, I was just agreeing. I liked it.
Okay. So then what would be like the average size in terms of number of clients you hold at one time? So is it like 5? Because I heard you said you have a team, right? So if I'm just starting off as just me, what would be like an ideal benchmark of the number of clients I'm trying to balance at one time?
Right now, if you're okay, well, I would tell you, number one, is it just you? If it's just you and you're just getting started, I would say no. I would have no more than 5 clients, because you need to be able to have time to research all those accounts and develop the relationships and do the research and do the problem solving. And then like just like you're on my website. I mean, that's my career. That's my track record of what I've done. But you have to have time to grow into this. So I would say no more than 5. And then I would tell you use the tracker that I talked about, so you can track your progress. You see, okay, I've got this client. I put them through the tracker. I build them. I got paid. And then what did I do to do problem solving? And I would do it again. And I would do it again. And I would do it again. So
then I have another question, because I'm gonna stop y'all. Stop me anytime. So you said you do small and medium and large size businesses. What is that? Is that like small cap, middle cap? Is that like 5 million or more? Like, how do you vet what would be like for you specifically? Do you do based on what you think the revenue is for the business, or like how many employees they have? If I'm online searching, I'm trying to figure out like, D is a good fit for me. How would I know that you would be the right accounts receivable recovery person based on you saying you work with medium and large firms?
Great question. I think that's a little more than I wanted to talk about here. So how about you and I schedule a call to do this?
Ooh.
Oh no, I didn't like. It was just like a general question. Like,
I know, I got it, but that's
because yeah. Okay, that's an
we
introspective. That's what you got to pay for the time question. Okay, I was just curious. Like, I'm not trying to look. I
have to pay for the secret sauce.
Yeah, I assure you, I'm not trying to hire you. Yeah,
I got it.
You know, if a client, yeah. Okay. So that was my last question. I was just curious to know like how people would know.
Yep, I got it. Appreciate it.
So here's something I didn't get a chance to ask when we talked last, and that is, have you ever experienced failure in doing this business? Have there ever been a time you have not been able to collect the money or as much money as you have attempted to collect?
Yes. Yes. So to answer your question, have I failed at this? Absolutely. This is not my first time creating a business. I actually attempted to do this about 10 years ago and failed miserably. And so I actually tried to do this because I thought, okay, I know how to collect money. I've done it for corporations, government agencies, et cetera. I launched my first business many years ago, did not do well. I had to close it and go back to work. So that is why today I said, I do my career and I'm working to build this slowly part-time so that when I leave my career this time, my business will be able to sustain me, and I'm not going to have to go back and go into my career. That's one. Number two, yes, are there so in the government space and in the corporate space, are there clients or there customers that I tried to collect money from and was not able to? Absolutely. There are contracts that I was not able to close because, number one, sometimes the companies have gone out of business. Number two, the information is not there. Number three, when I've dealt with corporations, there are people that sometimes, never return phone calls, never return emails, never answer the phone, ghost you. And I learned in my career, you document everything. So you can basically put together your case that shows, here's the person I reached out to. This is what I said. This is what happened. Here's a paper trail or the email trail of what I did. And you basically have to write up a memo that explains what had happened was and why this file has to be closed. That's what, yeah. But yeah. So yes, your question. Yeah.
Okay.
Angela, do you have anything? You've been pretty quiet today. You're muted, so you're really quiet right now too.
You're on mute.
In addition to the mute, we're having really unstable internet today. So, and it's just, I'm learning and I'm absorbing. It's just not my strong suit. So,
it's good.
I'm appreciating all the knowledge that I'm gaining.
That's awesome, and I love the story that you shared just about that. I love it coming from the question that Coach Ray had asked about failure, because I think it's inevitable that you're going to have some type of failure in your business. And, that's one of the things I think that is hard for a lot of new baby business owners to figure out, that failure that you just felt and experienced is probably not going to be the last. It may be different next time, but it's part of it. It's just,
it's part of it. And here's the thing. I mean, if I, in total transparency, so imagine, I've been in my career for over almost 20 years. So imagine, you work for a company, you get let go or things don't work out, and that you start, okay, I'm gonna start this business. And I had done this. I had gone, the very things I talked about, I took a 8-week business program. I graduated. I had my business plan. I had the look. I had all the things, but I didn't, and I thought I knew how to do this. And I jumped out there and I'm like, oh yeah, I can figure this out. Hot mess. It was a huge mess. And, I tried it for a little bit and I was not able to really ramp it up. I mean, I was going to networking events, this, that, and the third, taking classes on and on and on. And I couldn't figure it out. And finally, a good friend said, listen, there is no shame in acknowledging that you don't know how to do this. And this is not your strong suit for running a business this time. So why don't you close it and go back to do the thing that you know how to do really well and go get hone those skills and then go back to school to learn about business. So when you do it this next time, you will be doing it from a different mindset. And I said, okay. And so I went back to school. I graduated from another program, but I have kept my career and I'm building this business. And so basically if you deal in the government space, you have something what's called a capability statement. And it's a document that shows all the things you have experienced in. So BCS Solutions is me. It's my career that is going to be able to do all the things that I've done in my career. I will be able to offer these services to small and medium-sized companies, particularly since I come into government. So it'll be government agencies, it will be IT companies, it'll be software companies, it will be those companies that their revenue is at least $1 million to $5 million that need AR services and don't have a team and are stuck. So hopefully, Chanel, that answers your question.
I think that's great. And I'll reach the end of our time. So I want you to let everybody know, number one, where to find you and to be able to maybe schedule a call. And then also a little bit about where to find your book if it's a different spot.
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you very much to Ray and to Maria, Angela, and Chanel for this great conversation. So I'm Dee Bowden. I'm the author of Collect the Cash. If you want a signed copy from me, you go to www.collectthecash.biz/book. That's www.collectthecash.biz/book. Otherwise, you can find it on Amazon, Walmart, and Barnes & Noble. But if you want it signed by me, you go to www.collectthecash.biz/book. Social media, I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram is @DCollects. And again, it's been a great honor to be here. Thanks.
That's been great. And you do want the signed copy. You do. So go to the website, collectthecash.biz, is that what you said?
Yeah,
I just ordered it.
Biz /book.
There we go. And you go there. We'll actually put that in the show notes, and then you can get a signed copy. Like me, I like to be teacher's pet, so I've already ordered it. But so you won't be able to be first like me, but no, you'll be able to be after me. So y'all can go order those. And thanks again for being on the show. We've had a blast.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dee.
Thank you.
Thank you.